Let's Science is brought to you by the StarQuest Production Network and is made possible by our many generous patrons. If you'd like to support the podcast, please visit sqpn.com/give.
3, 2, 1.
We live in a universe of scientific wonders.
Every day, scientists are inching towards breakthroughs which can change our lives.
We're playing our small part in sharing these wonders with you.
That's why today is a fine day for science.
So let's science.
So, Caroline, you have been texting Lino and I about this for a while, and we just haven't had the opportunity. So let's reveal this little topic, and you can take that in every sense of the word. Yeah,
it is a little topic.
I have to say, you're watching TV.
Quite a tiny topic.
Yeah,
We've been watching TV, and what's it called? They advertise this show for like months, coming months. To the tennis, the cricket, whatever. And you get to this topic, and you go, "Wow, this was worth the wait." And of course, Caroline's science topics always worth the wait.
Definitely.
That's very kind of you.
Caroline,
I hope so.
Tell us about ant brains.
And I hope it is worth the wait. So yes, I just wanted to tell you that magnetic fields shape desert ant brains. Let me explain. So in a study published this year on February the 20th in the journal Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences, it found that ants use the Earth's magnetic field to navigate, and tweaking this field around them physically changes their brains. So we know that the Earth's magnetic field is useful for all of us living creatures living on our beautiful planet Earth. It performs many functions which help us to survive, such as by blocking out cosmic radiation and solar flares so we don't get burnt to a crisp or, bombarded by ions and all sorts of things.
Thanks for that, magnetic fields. Yep.
And for many animals, it helps them to actually navigate their way around the globe. We've heard of birds using the magnetic fields to help them navigate, etc. So for desert ants, it actually helps them to navigate back home to their nests after they have left and gone for a bit of a foraging mission. So when a young ant learns to exit its nest, it also learns to forage. So that's what ants primarily do in their life, forage.
It's a good life.
So talk about working together. So all the ants have to work together. They have to be humble. They have to work together.
Have the smarts.
Can't be bulldozing anyone.
Yep.
Use their smarts, their hunger, all of it.
Ants. Yep.
Ties in very well. Ants, if they don't work together, they don't accomplish anything.
I can imagine.
That's it.
We know. We've seen a
That's it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. Exactly. Great example. So when it is learning to forage, first of all, when it first comes out of its nest, it actually walks loops around its nest for the first 3 days.
Oh, really?
So it just goes round in circles, before they wander off in any other direction. During these initial walks, they pause and they look back at the nest entrance so they can learn their way back home.
Nice.
And it turns out they actually use the magnetic field to do this.
That's cool.
So scientists have discovered that altering a magnetic field around an ant's nest affects the connection between neurons in the learning and memory centers in young brains.
Oh.
So by discovering this, they've also been given a clue as to how magnetic fields are sensed by animals and how they influence brain development. So a study was performed on a species of desert ant from a dry pine forest in southern Greece named Cataglyphus nodus. So they marked each ant with a coloured dot to distinguish between the experienced foraging ants and the young inexperienced foraging ants.
Cool.
So
that's
Pauline
a lot of ants,
Fleischman, it's a lot of ants. It's from one nest, so not all the nests in the whole. Okay, not all the ants on the whole area, just one nest. So Pauline Fleischman, a behavioural biologist working on this study, said that identifying the stage of ants was quite easy. So the experienced foragers would run out of the nest and disappear to search for food, while the young ones would walk around in circles.
I'm sorry.
They got to learn.
I kept thinking, monotonous, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, if you're a Looney Tunes fan, you'll understand that. Yeah. Now, I was thinking that would actually be a fun observation to make next time you look at an ant's nest. See if you can see who's the experienced foragers and who are the ones that are just circling around.
It's the young ones trying to learn. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So, this is how the experiment went. Just outside the nest entrance, the researchers set up a device that actually interrupts the magnetic fields. Okay? So, in one experiment, as the team used the device to nullify part of the Earth's magnetic fields that run parallel to the ground, the young, inexperienced ants actually struggled to orient themselves to face towards the nest entrance during their learning walks. The researchers then collected these little ants, extracted their brains, and examined a pair of structures called the mushroom bodies that are involved in the learning and orientation of the ant. So the ants exposed to a disturbed magnetic field had smaller mushroom bodies with fewer number of connections between the neurons compared with ants that ran about in a normal magnetic environment. So basically what's happening here is that with the ants were able to learn without any disturbance in the magnetic field, there were changes in these mushroom body structures in the brain. But when the magnetic field is disturbed, the ants were not able to learn, and so the changes in the brain were not made.
Okay.
However, when the researchers completely eliminated magnetic field around the nest, not just the part that was parallel to the surface, the ants could orient themselves just fine and their brains didn't display the same effects as seen as the ants exposed to the altered magnetic field. And it's thought that this could be because the ants are just able to use navigational cues based on what's around them in the environment instead of the magnetic fields. But when the magnetic field is disrupted but available, the ant may still try to make sense of that. So whereas if there is no magnetic information at all, they might realize that they can't use it and they start using other cues as a backup. It could be interesting to learn whether these magnetic signals have an impact only early in life or throughout the lifespan of the ants, says Susan Ackerson, who's a sensory ornithologist. And such signals could be especially valuable for organisms living in more arid deserts like the Sahara. For example, where the shape and landmarks keep changing.
Oh, yeah.
It could be a sandstorm overnight and the environment is completely different when you go to the nest in the morning. So they can't use the cues in the environment because the environment changes all the time.
Right, yeah.
So the magnetic field is 100% useful because that is what they will use to navigate themselves back to the nest. Isn't that amazingly interesting? So now I'm sure we'll all be thinking a little bit more about our tiny friends and wondering how about the Earth is affecting their microscopic brains as they learn to forage for food. And if they look a little hungry and confused, be kind and leave them a little bit of something yummy so they don't have to travel too far to collect their dinner.
Not so much that they'll invite their friends the next day.
Don't do it inside your house, maybe. Just do it the nests that are outside. And they won't come in if you feed them outside anyway. So, yes.
You don't want one ant one day and then the next day you've got 1,000 ants going for the colony.
It's true. It's true. And I had that little issue in my rubbish bin a few weeks ago, but I learned now I don't spray them. I actually take away the food source. So if I had a bit of honey lying around that came out of the bottle, I realised. And so I just cleaned up the honey and the ants didn't come back. And then I squeezed a bit of lemon juice around the top of my bin and they don't like that. So they just went away. Oh, right. So no need to get out the spray. Just be kind to your little ant friends. Cool. They don't need to kill them. Okay. Yeah.
Carol, you may not know the answer to this, and this is a question without notice, all right? So you don't have to, so don't worry too much about it. But as I was listening to you talk about the Earth's magnetic field and ant brains, do you know of anything that's been done in terms of human brains? Is there any...
That's a good question.
We're not going to start walking around our houses or anything, but is there any... I just wonder anyway.
That's a really good question. I don't know if we're conscious of it, if we do use the magnetic fields, because we've got GPSs and stuff to help us navigate.
True.
Maybe there's something physically that we aren't aware of, but that's a really interesting interesting. It's something really interesting to think about. I love it. I'm going to go look that up, actually. And if anyone knows about it, put it in our Discord, because that'd be a great discussion. Yeah.
It does make sense because, like, how we travel, we're talking about ants and how they travel around in different parts of the forage and everything. We've been doing that for ages, back when we were adventurers, you know. We've been explorers and everything. For us, before GPS, we were just trying to remember street names, maybe landmarks. Is that how?
I was going to say, I think we relied on landmarks even before, like it would be landmarks.
Even before, stars, you know, even before things were more like, I hate to say the word civilized, but with buildings and things like foraging and things like that.
Exactly.
We'd use the stars, we'd use the day, the sun, the moon, the ancient peoples would draw. I know the indigenous people of Australia used to draw maps and leave maps for other people.
That's right.
And there'd be directions like water hole that way, food over that way. And they'd work with the seasons and things like that, which is another amazing topic.
Cool.
But as far as magnetic field
for brains, that's
for our brains. Yeah, I really want to know if there's been any research into that. Actually, that's fascinating.
I just want to see one day. You'll have the MacGyver kind of ants, right? And the ants will say, "Thank you so much, you saved our colony." And you'll say, "Don't thank me, thank the moon's gravitation." Thank you, Simpsons, for that one.
Do it.
A couple of episodes ago, Lino and I talked about time on the moon. So the United States, the White House has directed, along with other people in the Artemis program, etc., other countries, to develop a standard of time on the moon. So what is a day on the moon? What's the time on the moon? So just like we have standard time based on universal time here and so on. And that this time would then be used to calculate times on other planets and bodies and so on. So eventually a Mars standard time, which is lined up with the moon time and Earth time. So essentially one day what you could do is you could have different time zones. You could pull out your phone. You'll have the time in Melbourne, the time in Dom's from Boston. So let's have that, for example. I wonder what time it is in Boston. I wonder what time it is in Malta, where our relatives, Lino, Philippines. And then you have the moon. And then sometime later, Mars. But although Mars is a bit harder because it's a big planet, right? So you'd have time zones as well. So what?
You definitely have time zones.
Is that correct?
You'd have...
It would have to have time zones. Yeah. It's a big planet, right?
Especially if you go somewhere like Jupiter and you've you have massive time differences on Jupiter. Yeah. There is a lot to calculate in that. But super. I'd love to have that on my phone. It's 3 a.m. in
Olympus
this particular region of Jupiter.
Whereas the moon is just going to have one standard time. So the light side, the dark side, whatever. So far, anyway. So just very quickly. So 2 comments on YouTube. So Todd Lund says, "This is so cool." We agree.
We agree.
It is so cool.
It is so cool.
For so many reasons.
100%.
It is so cool. And then Tim Trot Productions says, "Moon hours are not 60 minutes. That's the first problem. The conversion is like yards to meters." And so this is going to, and this is why it's going to take so long, because it's not as simple as you just convert one to the other. Moon, I think we mentioned that a moon minute is slightly shorter than an Earth minute as well. And a moon day is, I think it's 25 to 27 days on Earth.
Wow.
So there is a lot of work that has to be done to calculate, all of this. And thankfully, guys, it's not our problem. So someone else has to do it. Someone else has the math to do it.
We're not calculating it, no.
Yes.
Wow, okay.
Yeah, because there's like the spin and then there's the rotation around the sun. There's so much to take into account, isn't there?
So we have to start, but when the time is come to colonize, that sounds bad. So
no, it's
living on the moon.
Yeah.
And then you'll have...
Moving house, moving planet.
Setting up shop,
Yeah, you just have to know, like you said, it's like Earth. It would be different times on different parts of the moon. So let's say it's moon base 29 on one side and moon base 101, I don't know, on the side. They'll say they have to tell you.
That's a lot of moon bases.
Moon bases are going around. That's thank goodness. That's for someone else to figure it out.
Thankfully, Futurama has already told us how it happened. So it was actually whalers who went whaling on the moon, and they had a whole song about it. Yeah.
Is that when they found the poplars, or is that a different one?
I understand.
Yes.
Oh, God.
Putting that aside, Caroline, that was a fascinating topic on ant brains, and it was definitely worth the wait. Thank you. I was waiting for months, literally, to hear it, and I loved it.
Yes, I'm glad I was finally to do it. I thought it was so cute. It was just a cute little article
You have
there.
helped me to appreciate creatures that I have not appreciated before, though, I'll just say.
Good. That is my aim.
I'm
That is
a
my
little
aim.
bit more sympathetic to ants, spiders, and magpies now.
Good. And,
Yeah.
Yes,
I would
good.
never want to touch one still. However, you made me more understanding.
Don't touch anything that's native to Australia. That's
don't-
probably a good idea.
that's
Except my stick insects. They're really cute. Except sometimes they can grab on a little hard and maybe a bit. They eat leaves, so it's fine.
So that's fine, yeah.
But so do koalas. I just described a koala because they're cute and they're a bit spiky and eat leaves. So there you go.
Let's Science is brought to you by StarQuest Media and is a fortnightly podcast that brings you the scientific wonders of our universe from a distinctly Catholic point of view. For more from Caroline, Lindsay, and friends, listen to the StarQuest show, Catholics of Oz. Find links from today's show at sqpn.com/science and find the Catholics of Oz at sqpn.com/Oz. Be sure to follow the show in Apple Podcasts, Google Play, wherever you can find podcasts, or on the SQPN YouTube channel. The generous donations of our patrons at sqpn.com/give make it possible for us to continue Let's Science and all the shows at StarQuest, which makes our nonprofit mission possible. You can join them by visiting sqpn.com/give. Join us next time for more scientific wonders, and thank you for listening to Let's Science on StarQuest. Here's another podcast on the StarQuest Network you're sure to enjoy: The Secrets of Movies and TV Shows. Find it wherever fine podcasts are found or at sqpn.com/secrets.